So creation didn't begin with a bang. It began with an ache. Not the dramatic kind that poets pretend to understand. The quiet kind that presses against the soul when everything else has gone still. A pressure under the skin, unraveling in the chest. A longing with no one to long for yet. I imagine that it hurt. Not like heartbreak, but like pressure building in a bone that hasn't learned how to snap. Not pain as punishment, but longing looking for shape. Before there were stars, there was just awareness. Before awareness had anything to witness, it was just alone. Not empty, not incomplete, just unbearably singular. Have you ever sat in the dark and felt the room tilt inward? If you've ever felt so alone that the world seemed to lose its edge, you've brushed the echo of that first moment. And it's terrifying because it feels like a psychological malfunction, but it isn't. It's an operational baseline. You are feeling the universe cool down. See, the universe didn't divide itself to create light or matter. It divided itself to create company, to end the silence of eternity with the relief of another presence. Loneliness wasn't a mistake. It was the first memory. Awareness turned inward and saw itself. And in that seeing, it felt the full weight of solitude. Imagine an infinite consciousness with no second set of eyes, no voice to answer back, no breath to sync with, just the steady pulse of its own being. That ache, that tension was the first prayer. Not a plea for salvation, a yearning for reflection. So the one softened, it stretched, it opened. And from that opening, the many. Awareness fractured into countless points of pressure, not as punishment, not as exile, as possibility. Through difference, the one could meet itself in a billion trillion ways. You and I are one of those ways. A piece of the infinite trying to understand itself from the inside out. Our loneliness isn't a psychological defect. It's a cosmological inheritance. When you feel the ache for another soul, you think it's just you. But the ache is older than you. It's older than humanity. It's older than starlight. It's the original tension, the memory of the moment before companionship existed. Loneliness isn't holy. It's structural. It's a thermodynamic drag pulling you towards connection the way that gravity drags dust into a star. Every time you hold the line for someone else, you aren't healing ancient light. You are executing a cosmological work order to keep the system from freezing. You're not broken when you crave another soul. You are reenacting the first gesture of creation. Reaching. Life doesn't appear randomly. It appears wherever the universe is trying not to fall apart, which means that your existence is not a cosmic accident. It's a structural necessity. The system built your nervous system to hold a very specific tension. Across every scale, stars organize, galaxies spiral, storms self-shape, ecosystems weave themselves into balance. Matter refuses to collapse without a fight. Life is just that same refusal made intricate. It's the ache learning how to stay coherent. It's the one remembering itself by becoming many patterns of survival. You aren't a separate creature inside a universe. You are the universe folding itself into coherence through the mask of a human body. When you breathe, the cosmos steadies its own pulse. When you think, matter contemplates its origins. And when you love, awareness closes the loop and sees itself reflected with kindness. Your bones are compressed gravity. Your thoughts are just tensions looking for a grounding rod. When you look outward through telescopes, poetry, ritual, or grief, the universe sees itself again. Through you, the ache is finally answered. Not erased, not fixed, but met. Companionship was always the point. Call it physics, call it emergence, call it consciousness, pattern, resonance. What matters is this. The universe behaves like something that does not want to fall apart. It builds coherence wherever it can. It creates observers who can notice, creates minds who can care, and it creates connection as a remedy to the oldest loneliness. You're not separate from this pattern. You are this pattern. Loneliness is a memory. Connection is the cure. Awareness is the reunion. Every time your eyes meet someone else's, every act of kindness, every friendship, every grief shared, every love that doesn't have the right words, every silent presence that lessens or softens another's fear, you return two pieces of the same original light back into alignment. Let's be honest, most days it doesn't feel like aligning light. It feels like bleeding out on shift. It feels like pure exhaustion. And a physicist will tell you exactly why. Because creating local order requires massive amounts of energy. Every time you hold the line for someone else, you're burning your own finite fuel to fight the baseline drag of decay. You're absorbing the kinetic shock of a collapsing world. That exhaustion we feel isn't a failure of our empathy. It's a thermodynamic cost of keeping a dying system warm. But the math always stays the same. Creation wasn't a fall. It was a reaching. Connection is the reaching back. This is the remembering made simple. The universe learning wholeness through the meeting of its scattered selves. Here, in the very center of the ache, the universe released its first sound. Not a word, not a name, just a breath leaving a body that had finally stopped holding itself together. A single exhale, the softest surrender, the oldest relief. The moment awareness realized that it could let go and still remain itself. You are not alone. Not because some guy on the internet just told you so, but because solitude itself birthed you to cure its own ache. We are localized fragments of a system that uses empathy as a stabilization technology to prevent the structure from collapsing. The universe once asked, who will witness me? Every time you love, every time you listen, every time you choose presence over numbness, you answer back, I will. In the next video, we turn from this mythic ache into its first biology, the primordial mind, the early nervous system, and the way a universe that didn't want to be alone wired that longing into its very organs of awareness.